He laughed in a child's face. Not a small laugh. Not the kind of chuckle that came from disbelief or surprise. This was harsher, sharper. A sound that cracked through the air like glass shattering on cold tile. The laugh belonged to a man in a faded mall security uniform, his posture heavy with arrogance, his voice carrying down the sneaker aisle of Dick's Sporting Goods in South Park Mall, Charlotte, North Carolina. "No black woman has ever served in special forces," he sneered. "Stop lying to look important, kid. You're not fooling anyone." The words hit Amaya Richardson like a slap. She froze. Her 12-year-old fingers gripped the bright orange Nike shoebox so tightly that the cardboard bent under the pressure. Her lips trembled. Her chest constricted, as if the oxygen had been sucked out of the store. Her eyes, wide and brown, glistened with tears, but she fought to keep them from spilling. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "Crying isn't weakness, Amaya. Hiding your tears is. Never hide your truth." But what good was truth if the world refused to believe it? Amaya hadn't meant to draw attention. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She had only been talking with her best friend, Kayla Parker, about school, basketball practice, and how badly she wanted the crisp, white Nike Air Force Ones resting in her hands. Her voice had been casual, even playful, until she said the words that changed everything. "We saw to Badinatel." "My mom's not picking me up until she's done at Fort Bragg," Amaya explained, closing the shoebox with a soft thud. "She's in Special Forces, so sometimes her schedule's crazy." Kayla's jaw had dropped. "Wait, your mom's in the Army? Like, actually fighting?" Amaya shrugged, her tone light, unbothered. "Yeah, she's Sergeant Major Nicole Richardson. She just got back from a mission overseas." That's when the officer overheard. He scoffed, then erupted into cruel laughter so loud, shoppers turned their heads. His laugh rolled, bouncing off the walls, meant to humiliate. "Special Forces?" He spat, each word dripping venom. "That's a fairy tale. A black woman in Special Forces? Impossible. You kids, always lying for attention." He stepped closer, boots heavy against tile, badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. He bent down slightly, towering over Amaya, his smirk cruel. "Say it again," he challenged. "Your mom's in what? Special Forces?" The words sliced her. She wanted to scream, "Yes, she's the bravest woman I know." But her throat locked. Shame, anger, and disbelief tangled until nothing came out. Kayla tugged at her sleeve. "Don't listen to him, Amaya. Let's just go." But how could she walk away? How could she let this stranger spit on her mother's honor? Her fists balled, her nails dug into her palms, but her voice betrayed her. Silence stretched. The store seemed to tilt as the crowd thickened, shoppers pretending to browse but listening closely. Some whispered. Some smirked. Some simply stared, caught between skepticism and curiosity. Could it be true? Could a black woman really be in Special Forces? Amaya felt the heat of their judgment, the weight of disbelief pressing her down. The humiliation gnawed at her, and then the heavy glass doors at the mall entrance swung open. The sound echoed like a starting gun. The air shifted. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Even the faint pop song playing overhead seemed to dull, fading into the background hum. Boots clicked against polished floor. Measured, controlled, authoritative. The presence entered before the woman did. And then she appeared. Sergeant Major Nicole Richardson, uniform flawless, boots polished, beret angled with precision, medals catching the light, each one telling a story of battles fought and survived. Her posture radiated strength, not forced, not loud, but a quiet, unshakable command that silenced the room. Amaya's heart surged into her throat. Relief, pride, and fear tangled inside her chest. Her mother was here. And in that moment, The laughter stopped. Nicole's presence drew every eye. Mothers paused mid-step with shopping bags hanging loose from their hands. Teenagers froze with sneakers half tried on. Store clerks stopped scanning barcodes. Even the officer straightened unconsciously, though his smirk tried to cling stubbornly to his face. Nicole didn't speak. Not yet. She didn't need to. The room shifted around her, the way a tide bends around stone. Amaya's chest swelled with pride, but nerves twisted in her stomach. She had wanted her mom to appear, to prove it. But she hadn't expected the weight of the moment. The silence, the stares, the enormity of truth crashing down in front of so many witnesses. The officer finally cleared his throat, his arrogance cracking but not collapsing. "So this is the fantasy, huh?" he muttered, his voice lower now, but still laced with disbelief. "You're the one this kid claims is special forces?" Nicole's eyes shifted toward him, calm but razor-sharp, but the silence in the store was suffocating. Nicole Richardson didn't rush. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her presence was enough to command the air itself. Every step she took from the mall's entrance to the aisle where her daughter stood was deliberate, steady, unyielding. Her boots clicked like a drumbeat of authority. Her eyes didn't wander. They locked on the man who had dared to humiliate her daughter. Amaya's chest tightened as she watched. She wanted to run to her mother, to bury her face in the safety of her uniform, but she stood frozen. Something inside her knew. This wasn't the time for comfort. This was something else, something bigger. The officer cleared his throat, shifting his weight uneasily. His smirk lingered, but it no longer carried the same sharpness. It was the smirk of a man who suddenly felt eyes on him, dozens of them, judging, questioning, waiting. "So," he said, forcing his tone into casual dismissal, "you're the one? The so-called Special Forces soldier?" Nicole stopped just a foot away from him. Her uniform seemed to shine under the sterile fluorescent lights. The patch on her sleeve was unmistakable. Her rank insignia, her ribbons, her beret, everything about her screamed authenticity. But more than that, it was the way she carried herself. Calm, solid. A storm contained in silence. Her voice, when it finally came, was low, steady, and cutting through the air like steel. "You find it funny," she said, "that a black woman could serve her country?" The officer swallowed, his jaw tightening. He opened his mouth, but Nicole didn't wait. She turned slightly, her gaze sweeping across the small crowd that had gathered. Her words were no longer just for him. They were for everyone watching. "While you stand here, mocking a child for telling the truth, men like me, women like me, are out there protecting the very freedom that lets you wear that badge and abuse it." The silence deepened. Amaya's heart soared with pride, but a strange ache tugged at her chest. She remembered the nights she'd lain awake, waiting for her mother to return. The unanswered questions, the fear every time the phone rang late at night. Flashbacks pressed in. Her mother, Nicole, crouched in the darkness of a war-torn village in Afghanistan. The sound of gunfire rattling in the distance, orders whispered over radios, her squad moving like shadows through broken alleyways. Every second a calculation between life and death. Amaya had never seen those moments with her own eyes, but she had felt them in the quiet gaps of her childhood. The missed birthdays, the school recitals where an empty chair in the front row told the truth before anyone spoke. The weight of sacrifice. Nicole's voice pulled her back. "Special Forces isn't about what you look like," she continued, locking her gaze back on the officer. "It's about grit, discipline, courage, things you clearly know nothing about." A ripple moved through the crowd. Murmurs, gasps. Shoppers shifting uncomfortably, some nodding subtly, some recording discreetly on their phones. The officer's face flushed. His arrogance warred with humiliation. He straightened his shoulders, puffing his chest in a desperate attempt to reclaim authority. "You think you're better than me because you wear that uniform?" he snapped. Nicole didn't blink. "I don't think I'm better," she said softly, her tone deadly calm. "I know I've bled more for this country than you've ever dreamed." The words landed like a hammer. Amaya felt her throat burn with emotion. She wanted to cheer, to scream, to tell everyone that her mother was the bravest person alive. But her body trembled with the intensity of the moment. Kayla whispered, almost reverently, "Amaya, your mom's a hero." And then, for the first time, Amaya allowed a single tear to slip down her cheek, not out of shame, but pride. But the moment wasn't finished. Not yet. The officer's voice dropped lower, almost a growl. "Prove it." Nicole tilted her head, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," he said, grasping at straws, desperate not to look small in front of the growing audience. "Anybody can buy a uniform online. Anybody can wear a beret. You're just playing dress-up. Prove it." Gasps spread through the onlookers. The audacity. The disrespect. Amaya's stomach twisted. She had seen this look before, the one on her mother's face when someone pushed too far. Calm on the outside, fire on the inside. Nicole took one step closer, and in that moment, every soul in the store knew. The storm was about to break. The word "prove" echoed like a slap across the store. For a second, no one moved. No one breathed. The demand hung in the air, audacious, insulting, dangerous. Nicole Richardson didn't flinch. She stood in her uniform, still as stone, her eyes locked on the mall officer who had dared to mock her daughter and now dared to mock her service. Amaya's heart pounded. She wanted to shout, to defend her mother, to tell the world everything she knew about late-night calls, folded flags, and medals polished with quiet pride. But her throat remained sealed shut, trapped between terror and awe. The officer crossed his arms. His smirk twitched, but it was clear now. He was nervous. The weight of the crowd pressed on him too. Dozens of eyes, camera phones raised, whispers running like wildfire. Nicole's silence was louder than his words. Finally, she spoke. Calm. Controlled. "You want proof?" The officer nodded smugly, as if he'd won something. Nicole took a slow breath, her voice dropping lower, steady as a heartbeat. "Proof is the men and women alive today because I led them out of enemy fire. Proof is the scar on my shoulder from shrapnel in Kandahar. Proof is the flag folded into a triangle that I handed to a mother who will never see her son again." The crowd hushed. Even the mall seemed to fall silent. Her words weren't loud, but they hit harder than gunfire. And then, without warning, her mind slipped. Backward. The night was black, broken only by moonlight glinting off desert sand. Nicole crouched in the ruins of a bombed-out village, headset pressed tight, her squad tense and waiting. Gunfire echoed in the distance, bursts of orange cutting through the horizon. "Eagle Team, we move now," she whispered into the mic. A soldier beside her shook his head. "Ma'am, too hot out there. We'll lose half the squad." Nicole's jaw clenched. She could hear them, children crying somewhere in the dark, caught in the crossfire. Her orders had been clear. Secure the target, pull out. No mention of civilians. But leaving wasn't an option, not for her. "We don't leave them," she said firmly. "Not on my watch." The team hesitated, but the steadiness in her voice cut through fear. They followed. Minutes later, they moved like shadows through broken streets, bullets snapping overhead. Nicole led from the front, every decision split second, every step a gamble. She kicked down a broken wooden door, swept the room, and there they were. Two children huddled under a collapsed table, eyes wide with terror. "Got you," she whispered, scooping the smallest into her arms. It had been chaos. Smoke, shouts, blood. But they made it out. Every soldier alive. Every child safe. That mission had earned her a medal. But more than that, it had earned her the loyalty of every soldier in her unit. Nicole blinked, pulling herself out of the memory. The officer was still staring, his smirk cracking, his confidence faltering under the storm in her eyes. Amaya watched, tears streaking her cheeks. She saw it now, not just her mother's strength, but the invisible weight she carried. Nicole stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper, sharp enough to cut. "You want proof? You're standing in it." The crowd gasped. Someone muttered, "She's the real deal." Another whispered, "Special Forces. Look at her patches." The officer's face burned red. He wanted to argue, to push back, but his words stumbled. And then, from the back of the store, a voice rang out, cold, unfamiliar, and dangerous. "Sergeant Major Richardson?" Nicole turned and the color drained from her face. Because the man standing there wasn't just another shopper. He wore civilian clothes, but Nicole knew him from before. From a mission that had gone wrong. From a past she thought she'd left buried overseas. And the way he said her name wasn't friendly. The voice sliced through the silence of the store. "Sergeant Major Richardson." Nicole's body went rigid. Her eyes snapped toward the source, and for a moment, just a heartbeat, her calm, unshakable mask faltered. Standing at the back of the crowd was a man in his late 40s. Civilian clothes, baseball cap pulled low, a week's worth of stubble shadowing his jaw. But the set of his shoulders, the way his eyes locked on hers, the tension in his stance. Nicole knew that posture. Military, but not a friend. Her mind spun back years, to another desert, another night, another mission that hadn't gone the way it should. Amaya glanced between them, confusion knotting her chest. "Mom? Who is that?" Nicole didn't answer. Not yet. The officer seized the silence, desperate to regain control of the moment. "Oh, so now we have more stories, huh? What is this, some reunion of imaginary war heroes?" He chuckled, but it was hollow now. No one laughed with him. The man stepped forward, ignoring the officer completely. His gaze never left Nicole. "You don't remember me? Kandahar, 2018, night raid?" Nicole's stomach twisted. She remembered. She remembered everything. The night had been chaos. The mission simple. Extract a high-value target from a safe house crawling with insurgents. Nicole had led the strike team. Everything went smoothly, until it didn't. The safe house exploded into a trap. Bullets screamed from rooftops. Her team scattered, pinned down. Nicole had fought through the smoke, balking orders, dragging men out of the line of fire. And then she saw him. A man. American. Not supposed to be there. Working with the enemy. For a split second, their eyes had locked in the firelight. Betrayal burned there. She never saw him again after that night, but she remembered the face. Now that face stood here, in a crowded Charlotte mall, staring at her like a ghost. "You left me there," he hissed under his breath, though loud enough for Nicole to hear. "You left me to die." Nicole's jaw tightened. The room swam with whispers. Amaya gripped her mother's sleeve, eyes wide. "Mom, what's happening?" Nicole forced her breathing to steady. She wouldn't break. Not here. Not in front of her daughter. Not in front of this crowd. "I don't leave my people," she said coldly. "If you were left, it's because you weren't one of us." Gasps rippled through the bystanders. The officer's smirk flickered back. This was the crack he had been waiting for. "Oh," he sneered, gesturing broadly. So the big hero's got secrets. Looks like the truth's finally coming out. But Nicole's stare silenced him. She stepped forward, eyes never leaving the stranger. State your name. The man's lips curled. Call me Carson. Doesn't matter anymore. What matters is, you should have finished the job that night. Amaya felt her blood run cold. She didn't understand everything, but she understood enough. This wasn't just some random encounter. This was danger. Kayla grabbed her arm. Amaya, we should get out of here. But Amaya couldn't move. She couldn't leave her mother standing there, facing shadows from a past she had never spoken about. Nicole's hand subtly shifted, her fingers brushing the edge of her uniform pocket, where her ID and a small metal tag lay hidden. Not a weapon, just a reminder. Her voice dropped, sharp as a blade. You don't belong here. Whatever you think you're doing, walk away. Carson chuckled darkly. You think this is about me? Oh no, Sergeant Major, this is about you. About the things you've done that people like your daughter, his eyes flicked to Amaya, have no idea about. The crowd murmured louder now, tension thick as smoke. Phones were raised, recording everything. Amaya's breath hitched. She stared at her mom, desperate for reassurance. But Nicole's face was stone. And in that stone, Amaya saw something terrifying for the first time. Fear. Silence fell as Nicole stepped forward, her presence cutting sharper than any weapon. You chose betrayal, she said evenly, eyes locked on Carson. I chose to protect this country. His defiance cracked. Security dragged him away, swallowed by flashing lights and murmurs of the crowd. The same officer who had mocked Amaya earlier shrank back, shame etched on his face. Nicole didn't waste a glance on him. Instead, she knelt, meeting her daughter's eyes. Never forget who you are, Amaya. Never. Amaya's heart swelled. In that moment, her mother wasn't just a soldier. She was everything. Applause rose through the mall. Strangers saluted. But for Amaya, only her mother's steady hand mattered. If this story moved you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories.